Cherry picking in basketball is where you pass the ball from one side of the court to the other. This is one of the fastest play a team can do to score a point. Likewise, in football, a similar strategy could be applied where the ball is launched from one side to the other, resulting in a lightning fast score.
Comes across, 1-0 Tottenham. Dele Alli arrives, 10 minutes gone. Spurs are ahead in the FA Cup semi-final.
But what about a turn-based game like chess? Or the topic of this video, Wargroove.
Sage hungers!
How does time and fast plays come into the picture in Wargroove? Well, we come to the concept of tempo. Well, what is tempo exactly? In Wargroove, it is commonly known as a measure of a player's current ability to convert their army's composition and positioning into momentum or tangible gains over their opponent. Also known as, the faster you do your things, the more things you could do than your opponent. Let's look at some basic aspects of tempo. We could start by looking at the classic turn-based game, chess. In general, the more turns you take, the less tempo you have, since it takes longer to do. Why achieve the same position in 2 moves when you could just do it in a single move?
Nice.
The same thing could be applied to Wargroove. Why take 2 turns when you could just take 1 turn? This is very important because your gold income is collected at the beginning of your turn. The more villages you have, the more gold you have. Sometimes you could get to the same position with the same number of moves, but get a suboptimal result. In this case, red moved their left spear first, and then their right. But if you look at blue, blue moved their right spear first, and then their left. We can see that they ended up with the same position, but red is damaged and blue is not. Also, the villages are different. Red did not decap while blue did. This is important because less villages equals less gold, especially for your opponent. Let's recap. Tempo is the faster you do your things, the more options you have than your opponent. By 1, moving efficiently, you're faster than your opponent. 2, moving with proper order, you'll have more options than your opponent. This was demonstrated with the examples we've seen. But there's another important thing, positioning. By lining up multiple threads, you can generate tempo with your correct positioning. In this example, red can efficiently move to line up a crit to the right. But blue can really easily respond to that by just moving their spear to the right. However, red can position the knight so that it could line up 2 crits on 2 different villages. Now, red would have to choose to give up the left side or the right side because the spear cannot cover both. This way, red converted their tempo move into a tangible thing, which is destroying that village for blue. Now, we could see an example that could happen in a real game. Now blue is moving towards red's HQ, but along the way, he made multiple threats so that red has to respond to the HQ attack, but blue can now attack somewhere else and not just the HQ. We can see that blue has many attack targets that he could choose from. Red, on the other hand, can only defend the HQ because if that player spends too many units defending something else, then the HQ would be too defenseless and eventually that player will lose the game. So notice how red is moving everything up to defend that HQ, leaving breathing space at the bottom of the map. Knowing that blue cannot attack into the HQ, that player can now instead go for the tower, which is very important because it is a key point in that map. Let's do a little recap again. The faster you do your things, the more options you have than your opponent. So first, by threatening multiple locations, you could force the opponent's choices. which means you would have more options than your opponent, while your opponent will be restricted in what they could do. Other than your positioning, there's also something to consider: your unit composition. First, different units will have different movement. The faster the unit, the faster it will reach key points before the opponent.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am.
Second, different units offer different functions. Some units can generate more tempo than others. Here are some examples. Since there are so many units in the game, I won't be covering every single one, because every single one can be covered in a different video. In this example, red is attacking the southeast position. If blue doesn't defend this well, then he could lose the game on this turn. But notice how blue can respond. Blue doesn't have to move his top forces down to the bottom, because red doesn't actually have any anti-air. So what blue can do is to use his own air units to zone out the red units, while they could focus at the top and force red to respond, which will be very hard, as red committed most of their forces down at the bottom. Because red has no anti-air, these two air units basically zoned out the entire army. And speaking of the army, we come to the most important piece of it. There are 18 commanders in the game right now, and can be split into 3 groups: unit manipulation, damage, and healing, plus the weird ones. Each commander deserves their own video, so I wouldn't be talking about how their individual groups can generate tempo. So that's for another video, because I could go on forever. Now we come to the topic of unit count. Let's look at this situation. Who would win? It's actually the swords, even though their combined gold cost is less than the trebuchet. Because of the unit count, they could win against the trebuchet. There's an important lesson to be learned. Even though there are individually weak units, with enough numbers, they could be collectively strong. You could gain tempo with a high unit count, but it also works the other way around too. Lose too many units and you will lose tempo. And speaking of losing tempo, tempo is relative. If your opponent does a high tempo play, then tempo will swing to their side, effectively decreasing your own tempo. A game of Wargroove can consistently swing back and forth until one player gets enough. An example of this would be Tenri gaining her groove as the game goes on. And this is when they will start to have momentum. Momentum is just gaining or maintaining tempo over a number of turns. It's like having one unit and then increasing that unit and then increasing it again and again and again until you overwhelm your opponents. But that momentum can be stopped. Why? Because Wargroove is played by humans, and humans make mistakes. So sometimes we don't even know why our CO is in the middle of the enemy. So we can't always expect perfect play and have perfect momentum, because momentum can be stopped by really good plays by the other opponent. To summarize, tempo is the faster you do your things, the more options you have than your opponent. But does that mean that you win the game by having high tempo? Nope. Might make your game easier. Do I have to know everything here to be good at the game? Nope. How do I apply these things in game? Just play and practice. There may be that just one time where things click for you and you just have a better understanding of the game. When it comes down to it, if you like the game and you enjoy it, then you should just have fun with the game and just keep playing it. Thanks for watching.